Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast, and we're seen each week or found on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also get information and listen at my website, which is www.blainesworld.net. And if you want, you'll find us. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce two very talented folks, and they are Skyler Goff and Jason Phillips. And guys, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay, so that's Skyler up top and Jason at the bottom. I should mention that Skyler Goff is a playwright, director, actor, teacher, and business owner. His last playwriting endeavor, before the one we'll be talking about today, was the Fringe Festival of 2020, Spanko, I love that one, a Tex-Mex comedian musical. He is a fixture in the Montfort Muppets, as well as a teacher and director. Jason Phillips is an actor, director, and sometimes writer. He has worked in theater in Chicago and has been a part of the Asheville theater community in the past 6 years. Earlier this year, he co-wrote and directed Algorithm and Blues, a dating sketch show at Magnetic. He most recently appeared in Sherwood and working musical at Parkway Playhouse. And let me ask you guys, first of all, since Skyler, you and I haven't spoken on the air before, you grew up where?
I grew up in Hudson, North Carolina, but then I came to Asheville for college and I've not left.
And when you grew up elsewhere from Asheville, did you always know you wanted to be a theater guy?
I think some part of me did. Absolutely. I really loved being anybody but myself, putting on costumes, reenacting my favorite scenes from movies. I would break VHS tapes, rewinding them over and over and over again. So yeah, I think so. And I know that when I went into high school and I went into the drama program for the first day and all the senior girls screamed, "Oh God, it's a boy."
Right.
I knew I was hooked.
Is that the first time you had ever acted?
Yes. Yeah. When I went into high school, that was my first official role.
Well, before that, did you have any other roles?
No, nothing I can think of off the top of my head other than perhaps the doctor in my kindergarten performance of 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed.
Well, hold that thought. So you actually remember that. Is that correct?
My parents wouldn't let me forget it.
Because I have this great fundraiser I've shared with Jason, but I still want to do it, Jason. And the fundraiser I want to do, Skyler, Magnetic would be fantastic for it, is everybody would do their very first role. So you'd have to do, in terms of when you were 5 years old, I assume there was is there a videotape of that somewhere?
Oh, there is videotape of it. Oh, yeah.
Is there really? Oh, my goodness. Have you ever seen it?
Many times. Oh, yeah. Anytime we got sentimental at home, that was what we watched.
Okay, but think about it. So the role that we'll create for the fundraiser though, could be that as a 5-year-old. And so you quit acting at 5 years old until you went into high school. Do you remember your first role in high school?
Yes, I played Bill in the timing, specifically Sure Thing, that one act, which was a lot of fun. Big role for a freshman in the play production class.
Okay. So that's pretty cool. So you started acting in high school. Were you in a bunch of plays in high school?
I didn't miss one. We did Into the Woods, The Crucible, all sorts of great things, got great roles, had a lot of fun. I think I really developed more of who I was in that class than any other.
And so after you graduated high school, you continued acting?
Yes, I did. Went to college at UNCA, was going to major in theater, changed majors multiple times, ended up minoring in theater instead. Okay.
And what's cool about you is so you not only did acting, but then you got into directing and playwriting as well.
Yes.
Let's talk about both those. So directing, when did you start doing directing?
Well, again, in high school, I did a one act to start. It was a one act about the 3 fates. It was a lot of fun. And from there, I just kept dipping my toe in. I directed Merchant of Venice when I was doing a college project, and then just went on from there out into the community.
Okay, and last question before I turn to Jason, preference acting or directing?
Oh, I think acting.
Okay, That's interesting, Jason, because you've done some directing too, right, Jason?
Have. Yep.
And I don't know, I think Skyler is one of the few people that answers that. I'll ask you the same question, but almost every director or actor who became a director, they say they prefer directing, actually. And do you have a preference, Jason?
Well, I like the immediate feedback of acting. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about it. I think there are weeks when I'm being an actor that I would like to be a director, but most of the time I prefer acting as well. It's a lot of responsibility to direct a show.
Well, but not only that, one advantage, Jason and Skyler, and directors don't tell me this, but they don't have to memorize the lines, so that's, especially if you have this big monologue, it's one advantage of directing. Same question, Jason, you've been acting a large part of your life, is that correct?
Yes, I probably was not as into it or proficient at it when I was in high school. I did start in high school. I sang through as a child, so lots of choirs and singing competitions and those sorts of things. And then in high school, I branched out into theater, but I was horribly shy. So I wanted to do it to sort of break out of that, but mostly in the chorus. I played roles in high school, and then I made the leap in college to actually major in theater. So I have a degree and everything.
What was your first role? Do you remember?
My first role, gangster number 2 in Guys and Dolls.
Was it really?
Yeah. So, which was nice because that was my first high school role, and then when I was in college, I played Nathan Detroit in Guys and Dolls. So,
I can see you in
I
that.
got to keep going.
You said something very interesting. You said you were nervous at one time or shy.
Oh yeah.
Do you see yourself that way still?
I'm better. I still can be a little socially awkward, but yeah, I see myself as shy. The acting is a way to explore like much bigger parts of my character that gets sort of shut down during the regular day.
Because I don't know you well, but you'd be the last person I would say would be shy. It's just you come across. And Skyler, we were talking off the air, but I'll ask Jason to describe the one role, especially you killed it at that benefit I saw not too long ago at Montford. And what was that role you played there?
Well, that's my like very weird take on Noel Coward doing like modern pop songs. So I've done it a few times and I really enjoy doing it. But the part of the freedom is I don't have to be me.
But the cool thing about that one too is that you don't have to know it's Noel Coward. It's just
right.
It's like this character you play is so different than you, it seems like. It was so funny to watch you that. But you're singing that too. I don't know if I've seen you in a musical yet, or have I?
My first musical in like 15 years was out at Parkway this spring in Working. So
I'm so sorry I missed it too.
Rusty.
But I love the show too. And so what role did you have there?
I played the welder, the mason. So, Working as one of those montage and monologue shows. So, but my big songs, I was the trucker. I had several people tell me they'd never seen me be so manly before as the trucker.
No, I want to see it. I would have loved to seen it, but that's a great show, isn't it? It's just a terrific show, Working. And so same thing too. So you've been acting the last couple of years and you've done some directing?
Some directing. And it had been a long time, but Magnetic did the walking play out on the Reeds Creek Greenway. And I ended up directing that, and that was the first time I had directed something in a long time.
Did you direct the whole play?
Yes.
Wow. Did you get to see that, Skyler?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Oh, it was so cool. It was just you walked along the parkway and saw 10 different skits or something, and that was kind of cool the way they did it, wasn't it?
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Did you have fun with it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could see, even if we ever get out of COVID, I could see somebody else doing that. It was just a different way to present. And it was just really well done, I thought. You put together a great cast and very cool. And let's use that then to segue into one of the shows I want to talk to you both about. And that's a play, Skyler, you wrote. And is this your second play you've written, or are you more than that?
Oh, I've written a few plays, but this is the second one I'll put my name on.
What was the first one?
Well, the first one, what would have been Spanko, the Tex-Mex comedian musical for Fringe in 2020. That was my, I guess, the premiere play for Asheville that I'd written.
Okay, so that was, I missed that year at Fringe. That was produced in Fringe, but this is now the second play you're producing and actually directing and wrote it as well. Name of it, and then talk about a little bit about the play itself.
Absolutely. So the play is called Caroling by Gaslight, and it is sort of my cynical, body, just absolutely throw everything at the wall version of a Christmas carol. My wonderful wife, Ashley, whom you have interviewed many times, one of the things that we differ on is our love and hatred of A Christmas Carol. I absolutely love it. She absolutely and I promised her one day I would write a version that she would enjoy. And I had always, I had this idea that it'd be really wonderful if everything that happened to Ebenezer Scrooge that night was actually due to all the people who owed him money gaslighting him, trying to change him, or trying to kill him, whichever worked in their benefit. And I think over the this 2.5 year span from 2020 to now, with COVID and all of the political action going on, I began to get really cynical and really upset and angry. And I think I took a lot of that and I put it out here into this play. Last year, being a business owner, selling online, last year was the very first year I ever said, I hate Christmas. And I immediately go, oh no, I'm going on this same path as Ebenezer Scrooge. I got to find something to lighten the load. And this is what came out. And I'm eager to see if it's going to be something that propels me in the community or sends me packing. Either way, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, now the key is, does Ashley like it?
I think she does. She's in it.
Oh, is she really too? Okay.
She is doing wonderful costuming for it. And she seems to be enjoying it quite a lot. So I win there, no problem.
So this is now somewhat of a family operation. Is this, have you ever had Ashley and you two together in a play or doing something together?
So yes, interestingly, we very rarely work separately in a lot of ways. She has done work with Different Strokes that I have not been a part of. However, when we first met, we went on the road with Poetry Alive, performing for kids around the country in a rental car for about 3 years. So we were dating. 3 months passed. Then I thought, well, I can marry her. I road trip. This is easy. And then during COVID, we actually were performing together from our home for the company Bright Star, who do touring children's shows. And so we were Zooming from our bedroom with like 8 different sets and different costumes, just trying to make a living doing what we love while we were stuck at home.
And so how was that doing Zooming shows?
Well, it was very interesting because it was, on one hand, it was new-ish, having to broadcast live into schools where who knows what's going on. Zoom was picking up in popularity. So in one way, the technical aspect was tricky, but I really found a lot of fun in the problem-solving aspect. So when they took shows on the road with Bright Star, they would have sets and all sorts of things. And how do you get the beanstalk to grow in Jack and the Beanstalk and the goose to lay the golden egg in a frame that is much smaller? So I took a lot of my, all the time as a kid watching Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale and all this other stuff. And I focused on how to make practical tricks happen easily and quickly. And it's a passion I have. I really love cheap, fun tricks.
It reminds me a little bit of what North Carolina Stage a lot does in other places. 34th, the It's Wonderful Life. And so all these people are just, have you ever seen the radio version of that?
I have not seen the radio version of that show, no.
Okay, Jason, you've seen it?
I've seen it in Chicago.
Okay, but yeah, it's just the same kind of thing. So they're all stuck in a little studio and producing all around the world. And we'll tie that back then to Jason, I won't say it's typecast, but you did the casting for this play that you wrote? Skylar, you did
Oh,
that?
yes,
Okay. And I'm saying
I did.
Yeah, you found the part for Jason?
Yeah. It wasn't too hard. It actually, Ebenezer Scrooge is actually very traditional in the play compared to everyone else. I wanted an Ebenezer Scrooge straight out of the book that would be both likable. Well, he's actually probably one of the more likable characters in this show. So yes, it is typecast to Jason because I really like Jason.
Jason, same to you then. So how does it feel is this the first time you have been Ebenezer Scrooge?
Yeah, the last time I did Christmas Carol, I was the ghost of Christmas Present.
Okay.
So yes, this is my first foray into Scrooge. And you know, it's fun to be grumpy.
No, not you. We want to ask your daughter what she thinks about that too, but let's talk a little bit. So you're grumpy in this play a little bit, but it's kind of a funny grumpy, or what would you say?
I feel like I should let the director answer whether it's a funny grumpy or not. But no, it's fun. I think probably it gets a little more unhinged than you would see in a regular Christmas Carol. That Scrooge is a little bigger and crazier as the journey with the ghosts go on. So that is really fun to play. Yeah, I yell a lot. So
well, it's funny because I saw you, I think, have a Magnetic not too long ago, and you were with your daughter, and talk a little bit about that, because I said, hey, that's kind of cool. The story is one of the first movies I recall seeing as a kid. The Alistair, where's Alistair Sims?
Alistair,
Yeah.
Sims,
I used to watch it all the time. And so I turned to you, remember, I said, well, this is kind of cool. So is your daughter looking forward to seeing this show? And respond to that.
I was like, she cannot see this show because it is very naughty and there are all kinds of illicit substances and murder and sex. So no, she can't come. And she is pretty mad about that because the last time I did a Christmas Carol, she actually was a little fan. So I think she was sort of like, oh, I can join in. I can remember, 4 years ago when we did a Christmas Carol together. And I was like, no, you cannot.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this. So you would say in terms of age ranking, or who should see the show, what age should you be?
I mean, depending on the person. I mean, we're rated R, so 18 plus. If your parents are probably like me, I would go 16. But yeah, no 12 and 13 for sure.
And it's funny you said that, and I'll get Skylar's reaction as well. But I think it's good that theaters tell people this, let them know up front. So you'll get a kick out of this, that a friend of mine's daughter was in Working, not at Parkway, but another show. It was a high school production. And she was the prostitute. And you laugh, we'll talk about Parkway in a second, but the mother, Skylar, was very upset. She came home, she was all excited. She has this big role. And the mother was not a happy camper. She actually called the director. They had to change something around. But I understand Parkway did a little bit of that too, right? They changed it a little bit.
Yeah, we did. We included some local Burnsville local interviews,
right?
And we also we cut some of the more sexist and, dare I say, racist aspects of the show because it was written in the 70s. So there's some stuff in there that needed to be updated a little bit for a modern audience.
But I think, and some people don't like the idea, but I think it's helpful when theaters tell people what the show is about.
Right.
And Skylar, as a director, you'll get a kick out of this story, but it's Assassins, and it was directed, you're probably both friendly with him, Mark Jones. And Mark Jones tells stories. I don't know if you got to see it, but it was a terrific show.
Yes.
But you got to see it?
I did, yes.
Oh, great. But what happened, Jason, is that one guy got very upset. He walked out of the show. And, we were talking about it afterwards, and Mark was, didn't he know what the play was about? An assassination of presidents. What did he think? But yeah. I guess he didn't do the research. Have you ever had that, Skylar, happen that you were doing a show and people were objecting to it?
Well, not necessarily. When I directed Merchant of Venice in college for a project, there was a little concern about the play and what they viewed to be anti-Semitic views within the show. And while, yes, the character of Shylock is a stereotype that is not necessarily favorable, in my opinion, you know, it's really how you look at the work. I see Merchant of Venice more so as like anti-Christian than anti-Jewish, because all the Christian characters are horrible.
Right.
And I try to really look at the work as a whole. And I think that censoring work or trying to sort of push it to the side and never revisit it does a real disservice to what could be learned from the source material, the conversations that come up because something is uncomfortable. I'm very much about pushing the comfort levels of audiences as well as actors, but that's a whole different relationship. And in this show in particular, I wanted to just go full body, full on, like, look at the world that Dickens lived in and really hyperfixate on how horrible it was. Because A Christmas Carol, when you read it, it's pleasant, it's cozy. But then you read Oliver Twist or you read Little Dorrit, there are horrible people with horrible diseases and horrible philosophies. And the idea of a white Christmas comes from that Dickensian trope, but it was also the coldest winter that century, and people were dying in the streets. And in sort of paralleling it with the way the world is working now, and being a person who is still encumbered by student debt, business debt, that really resonated with me. And that's not something people should bear with grace and dignity, in my opinion. We should be outraged. And all of the characters are outraged, but they are also horrible people, which is great fun.
Even Tiny Tim?
Oh, yes. Oh. The wonderful thing about this show is the story that when you walk in, you have to remember the concept of the show is all of that is fake. So does Tiny Tim even exist, or is Tiny Tim somebody else? Who are these people? Are these ghosts really ghosts, or are they just people trying to murder this old miser? And that's all a part of the fun of the show.
The people don't know the show. You're talking about it. I've seen the movie too many times. I've seen the very versions of the movie, but I still love it every time.
Yes.
But the movie, I don't know if I've ever read the book. Did you ever read the book?
I love the book. Yes.
Jason, you ever read it?
No, that's one where I've seen it on stage or in the movies way more.
Yeah, so I can't say I've seen the movie. Jason, same question of you. Have you ever been in a show, aside from this upcoming one, that people kind of were upset by the show?
The only time that happened to me, I was in a rock opera of Faustus when I was just out of college, and somebody walked out of it. The embarrassing part of that, there was a lot of religious imagery in the show, and I was playing a devil. The embarrassing part was that it was my stepmother.
Oh, who walked out?
She left at intermission and she never came back. My dad called me later to be like, I'm really sorry we missed the rest of your show. You were quite good. But she was overwhelmed. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, your dad walked out too?
Well, I mean, he had to drive her home. So.
Oh my God, that is something that, if your family walks out, that's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. It
Have
was
they
a
ever
good
seen
show though. I enjoyed it.
Have they seen you in anything since?
Actually, my first performance here in Asheville, my dad just happened to be in town during the complete works of Shakespeare at Montfort. So that was the first show he'd seen me in quite some time. But that was just a blast, a lot of fun to do. And so he had a great time.
We're talking about roles, Jason, that's quite a role. Who else was in that?
That was Jason Williams and David Brochard.
Okay, well, I would have loved to have seen that version.
Fun one.
That must have been a tough play though to do, in terms of the characters.
That's one of the things that I really enjoy is doing a show where you can play a lot of different characters, and squeezing all of Shakespeare into 90 minutes, 2 hours was just maybe the most fun I've ever had on stage till now.
And the cast too. Who did you ever see that show, Skyler, or did you ever do it?
Oh yes, I've seen it, and I was in it twice at Montford under the direction of Jeff Catanese. I played the actor who plays all the women roles.
Me too.
Yes, it's the
Because
best.
I had so much hair then.
Yes, I had my beard, and we had a bit where I was running through the audience collecting money, but also vomiting profusely on everybody. Yes, that I honestly would agree. That is probably one of the more fun things I've ever done on stage as well.
Talk a little bit about this the upcoming play in terms of, aside from Jason, you put together, I think, a really cool cast. Talk about who else is in it.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned Assassins. Lily Mills, who is in Assassins, she is in it. Kai Strange is in it. People would know Kai from Montford shows, from the Montford Moppets, which is the company my wonderful bride, Ashley, who is also in the show, has founded. I mean, it's a great group of people. It's, and the wonderful thing is I was able to hold the auditions before I had finished the script. So once I had cast people, I was able to sort of fine tune and write the characters for these actors. I really love an ensemble piece, and working in a company in the sense of like D'Oyly Carte and their operas or something. We have this troupe, and I'm going to write a role for Jenny. I'm going to write a role for Rachel McCrane. I'm going to write a role for Adam Olsen, or any of these people, these wonderful actors. And so each of them, there's a little bit of their strength in their characters that they can really just chew the scenery with.
And Adam in particular is kind of a fun guy to watch. You know, I've just seen him evolve, and it's just tremendous to watch him as a performer. The show opens when?
The show opens on the 2nd of December, and it goes through the 17th, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Okay, no Sunday matinees on this one?
Yes, Sundays.
Not to my knowledge. Is that so, Jason?
Yeah, I think we have Sundays.
Oh yes, Sundays at 4.
They're on my calendar.
There it is, right there.
Hopefully Skyler and his wife will be there, you know.
I'll be there.
Oh yeah, because that's when we usually Cynthia doesn't like going out at night, so we'll usually catch Sunday matinee at 4, and eat at the Italian restaurant down the street for pizza. We love it there. Yeah. But so it runs for 3 weeks. 3 weekends.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and in terms of getting tickets, the website again, Skylar, do you know it?
Absolutely, themagnetic.org.
Nope, hold on.
Yeah.
It's the Magnetic Theater.
Yes.
.org.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Jason is much better to say all of that.
But more importantly, Jason will also have you do the correct spelling, because
yes, it's theater the right way, with the THEATRE, not ER.
Well, talk to me about that, guys, because I'm having trouble when I write it out in my blog and other places. I know it's the theaters are RE, but then, like, you were a theater major, right? You said undergraduate, Jason?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how do you spell that?
It's the same way on my degree. It is THEARTRE.
Yep. Because a lot of places, and now I may just go the way you kind of recommend, just make theater all the time. It's really confusing to me to theater and then spell it a different way. But I guess if the theater itself is RE, you have to, but if it's ER, I guess you have to spell it that way. Like at Asheville Community Theater, I think is ER.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I think so, but
I don't know why.
It's just one of those strange quirks of the English language.
Well, I'll just digress and then we'll wrap up. But the same quirk is into this whole thing with actors and actresses, you know. And I'd be curious, Skyler, as director, how you view it. But I'm now calling all actors or actors as opposed to actresses. How do you view that?
It's interesting because I had that same notion a little while back. I would just say people are actors, but honestly, I'll take it as a case-by-case basis. If someone says, "Hey, why aren't you calling me an actor or an actress?" I'll say, "I'm sorry, you are an actor or you are an actress," and then we'll move on. There are so many other things that I dedicate my time and my attention to, and I just want to give the right name for something, whatever people prefer, and just keep moving on to the things that I really want to get to, which is you know, a violent Christmas Carol. That's the
And
preferred outcome.
is it a violent Christmas Carol?
Oh man, Blaine, it is violent, it is odd, it's foul. This is the most vile thing I think I've ever seen on stage, and it came out of my head.
What would you rate it?
Oh, definitely R. There is nothing necessarily pornographic. However, you know, you can stage things in a way that makes it look pornographic for sure.
And
So,
you've done that?
I have had other people do it. Yes.
Because you're kind of motivating me to really want to see this show.
You would regret missing it because you would at least have the chance to walk out halfway through.
I'll join you. I love that. And Jason, I'll ask you if we get through this then over the next couple of weeks, what's next for Jason Phillips after this particular show?
What's next starts during the show, which is rehearsals and sing-throughs for Happy Land, which is a rock opera that was written by local musicians Zach Knox and Ben Dickerson, who are Smooth Goose. So it'll be a world premiere at Magnetic, which will open February 10th in 2024.
Are you in that also?
I am directing.
Oh, directing. Well, let me ask you this, Jason, both in terms of directing and then acting. I'll ask both of you. I give actors so much credit when they're doing like two things at once. And sometimes, have you ever done three things at once? You know, like been one play, rehearsing another, getting ready for another. Have you ever done that?
I like to blame that on like, I can't. You know, I with having a family, they don't love it when I'm doing two things at once. So the third thing would really just have to be being at home. So
Skyler, what's the most you've ever done simultaneously?
Oh, that's a great question. For this show, I wrote it, I'm directing it, and I'm also doing sound design and some props work. A while back, I did some work with Anam Cara, and we did a Grand Guignol French horror theater Valentine's Day show. And I think I directed, I acted, I helped build pieces. That's how I prefer it. I love it being a company effort and everyone just jumps on board whenever they can. It gets my mind off of everything else in the world. So if I can really just put my nose to the grindstone for a show that can make people laugh or make them feel something, I'd much rather do that than anything else. So give me all the jobs.
Well, that's cool. But just what amazes me, you were telling about the Shakespeare thing, you know, all the characters in Shakespeare. And it's one thing to be doing one thing, but I know guys who are doing one play in rehearsal, like Jason is, for a second one, and then reading for a third one, you know, just simultaneously.
Oh, yes.
You know.
My cast really, really loves doing that. Our rehearsals have been a lot of fun. This show has a cast of 11 people. And yeah, I think all of the people there are very similar in that respect to me because they like going all over and doing all sorts of things. So it's been a fun rehearsal process, having them do one acts and other shows. And my actress is Emily Tucker is in Pemberley, which opens weekend. So she is taking a short break from our show to go do that. And then she comes right back in for Tech Week.
Oh, okay. And so one last time, I'll ask you to repeat the key specifics. If they want to see Jason like they've never seen him before as Ebenezer Scrooge, and they want to see everybody else like they've never seen them before, the show runs again, what dates?
It runs December 2nd through the 17th. It'll be Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7:30 and Sundays.
And thanks to Jason. Can you see it, Jason? We have the first weekend and everybody's missing. Everybody's there except Skyler and his wife. You know? Well,
I've earned it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, that's like I told you the show Wonderful Life, where they had to sit in, you know, for 4 people that do 34 parts. So, you know, and you did it with Shakespeare. I guess it could be done. Anyway, guys, now you got me really excited about this, and maybe I'll be able to drag my wife to it. I don't know, but we'll give it a shot. Okay. Anyway, thanks very much for being a guest on this edition of the Blaine's World podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully sometime in the near future, actually in person.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Great. Okay. Thanks, guys. See you, Jason.